The first time he looked at me, he didn't know he had already promised me forever. The second time, he walked right past me on a crowded Manhattan street like I was a stranger. New York doesn't stop for broken hearts. Its lights blaze, its streets roar, and its people hurry along as if no one's world has just ended. But mine had shattered into a million shards that night when the alpha I loved, the alpha who was supposed to be my fated mate, looked through me like I didn't exist. I should have expected it. Fate is cruel like that. Once, under the golden glow of Times Square lights, Ethan had held me so tightly I thought the city itself couldn't pry us apart. He whispered promises against my skin, promises that destiny had written into our very souls. He was my alpha. I was his omega. We were bound, or so I thought. But promises under neon lights are as fragile as glass, beautiful, dazzling, and too easy to shatter. And shatter they did. The first time I saw him after he returned from his years away, I was standing in front of the cafe where we once spent hours dreaming about a future. My heart leapt when his familiar figure stepped into view, tall, confident, breathtakingly handsome in that way only Ethan Carter could be. My instincts roared, my body trembled, my bond sang for him. But his eyes, they were blank, cold. He walked right past me, his arm brushing mine like any stranger on the street. I laughed, not because it was funny, but because if I didn't laugh, I'd collapse right there on the pavement. Of course, I whispered to myself, watching his silhouette disappear into the swarm of New Yorkers. Of course he forgot. People think living as an omega in New York is glamorous. They see the fashion, the opportunities, the illusion of freedom. What they don't see are the cracks, the subtle discrimination, the whispered doubts, the fact that our worth is too often measured by who claims us. And for years, I thought I was one of the lucky ones. Ethan claimed me not with shackles, but with love. He saw me as his equal, or so I believed. But fate has a way of testing the fragile. When Ethan left for the military, he kissed me under the lights of Broadway and told me he'd come back. I waited. Letters faded. Calls stopped. Still, I believed. Still, I kept the little ring he'd given me, the promise etched in metal, a reminder that alphas and omegas could defy the world if they had love. Now here he was, back in the same city, and he didn't even remember. "Liam, you're spacing out again," my best friend Aaron muttered across the counter of the coffee shop where I worked. He slid a cappuccino toward me, raising a brow. "Don't tell me you saw him again." I didn't answer right away. My fingers tightened around the cup, the warmth seeping into my cold hands. My scent must have betrayed my bittersweet, trembling with the ache I couldn't contain. Aaron's eyes softened. "Damn it, Liam. You can't keep doing this to yourself." He looked right at me, I whispered. And nothing. No recognition. No spark. Nothing. Aaron sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. "You ever think maybe that's a blessing? Maybe fate's giving you a way out? You deserve someone who chooses you every day, not someone whose memory flickers on and off like a busted light bulb." But Aaron didn't understand. This wasn't just memory. This was destiny unraveling. My very soul felt the absence. The bond that once sang between us was now a ghost, a cruel reminder that the universe could bind two people together only to rip them apart. That night I couldn't sleep. New York sirens wailed outside my apartment window, headlights flashing like restless spirits. I lay awake staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment with Ethan, the warmth of his hand, the way his laugh filled a room, the weight of his promise under city lights. The ache in my chest was unbearable. I finally got up, pulled on a hoodie, and stepped out into the restless city. My feet carried me without thinking, and when I looked up, I was standing in front of his building. Tall, sleek, modern glass reflecting the stars and the skyline. A place I had no business being. But then, as if fate hadn't tortured me enough, the lobby doors slid open, and he walked out. Ethan Carter, the alpha who once swore he couldn't breathe without me. He froze when he saw me. Our eyes locked. And for a fraction of a second, I swore something flickered there, confusion, recognition, maybe even pain. But then his jaw tightened, and he said words I never thought I'd hear. "Do I know you?" The world tilted. My knees nearly gave. "Yes." I whispered, voice breaking. You used to. He didn't let me explain. He didn't stay. He just walked away again, leaving me under the unforgiving glow of his building's lights, my chest hollow, my bond screaming in silence. But destiny doesn't let go so easily. The next day he came into the cafe. My cafe. Sat at the counter like a storm cloaked in a perfectly tailored suit. His scent hit me first, rich, commanding, alpha through and through. My body betrayed me, every instinct craving him, even as my mind screamed to run. Black coffee, he said, his voice smooth, low, dangerous. I set the cup in front of him without a word. He studied me, those storm-gray eyes scanning my face as if searching for something he couldn't name. My heart raced, my hands shook, and when his fingers brushed mine taking the cup, the bond roared back to life, fierce and undeniable. He felt it. I knew he did. Yet he only frowned, confusion knitting his perfect brow. Why do I feel like I should know you? He asked softly. Tears burned my eyes. I wanted to scream. I wanted to grab him, to shake him, to demand he remember the nights we spent tangled in each other's arms, the promises whispered under New York lights. Instead, I forced a smile that felt like glass cracking in my chest. Because you promised me forever, I said. And then you forgot. The storm that had raged between us finally broke one night when fate forced us into the same place, at the same time with no escape. A gala. Of all things, it had to be a gala. Aaron had begged me to come as his Plasonian event for charity, filled with people who wore masks even without costumes. I didn't want to go, not when every corner of the city reminded me of Ethan, but Aaron insisted. And there he was. Ethan stood across the glittering ballroom, sharp in a tailored suit, shoulders broad, posture commanding. The chandeliers poured golden light over him, making him look almost untouchable. Yet the moment his eyes met mine, the bond flared so violently I nearly dropped the champagne flute in my hand. His gaze burned, conflicted, angry, hungry, lost. When he crossed the room, the crowd seemed to part for him. My heart slammed against my ribs, but my feet refused to move. I was rooted in place, waiting for the hurricane to strike. Why? His voice was low, raw, as if he'd been holding the question inside for too long. Why does every part of me scream when I'm near you? Why does it feel like I've been searching for you my whole damn life? Yet I can't remember a thing. The music faded, the crowd blurred, and for a moment it was just us. Two souls pulled together by something larger than memory, larger than choice. You don't remember, I whispered, voice trembling. But your soul does. That's the cruelty of it. Ethan's jaw clenched. His hand lifted, as if to touch my face, but he stopped himself. Then tell me who you are to me. I should have. God, I should have. But fear chained my tongue. If I gave him the truth and he still chose to walk away, it would destroy me completely. So I turned, forcing my feet to carry me toward the balcony. But he followed. The city stretched beneath us, alive with lights and noise, oblivious to the war between two hearts above it. I gripped the railing, the cold metal grounding me. Ethan's presence loomed beside me, heat radiating from him like fire. Liam. Hearing my name from his lips again nearly shattered me. Don't run from me. I'm not running, I lied, staring at the skyline. I'm surviving. Silence hung heavy between us, broken only by the hum of the city. Then Ethan exhaled sharply, frustration bleeding into his words. Every time I see you, I feel like I'm drowning and breathing for the first time at once. And I don't know why. It's driving me insane. Tears burned my eyes. Slowly, I turned to face him. Because you're my alpha, I whispered. And I'm your omega. We were bound before either of us knew what that meant. You promised me forever under these very lights, and then you forgot. But I never did. The truth landed between us like a thunderclap. Ethan staggered back a step, his eyes wide, lips parted as if the words struck something deep, something buried. Memories flickered in his gaze, shadows of laughter, of touches, of whispered promises. His hands trembled at his sides, fists clenching as if fighting against something unseen. And then, just as quickly, his face hardened. His voice broke. He swallowed. I can't remember enough. How can I promise you forever if I don't even know the beginning? The words sliced through me. Then maybe forever was just a lie? I choked, before pushing past him into the night. Days bled into weeks. I tried to move on. Tried to convince myself that some bonds weren't meant to survive. That maybe Aaron was right, that fate had given me an escape. But the truth was, my body, my soul, my very being still ached for Ethan. And no matter how far I ran, I couldn't erase the imprint he'd left. And then came the night it all came crashing back. A fire broke out in a midtown high-rise. I had been closing the cafe when the sirens screamed, the smoke painting the skyline black. Something primal gripped me, a pull deep in my chest dragging me toward the chaos. And there he was, Ethan rushing into the burning building, ignoring the shouts of firefighters trying to stop him. He didn't hesitate, didn't pause. That was Ethan. That had always been Ethan. Without thinking, I followed. Inside, heat seared my lungs, smoke clawed at my throat. Panic swirled, but instinct drove me forward. And in the chaos, I found him hauling a child into his arms, shielding them with his body as flames roared around us. Ethan, I screamed, rushing to his side. His eyes locked on mine, wild and desperate. And in that instant, something broke. The bond surged, overwhelming, unstoppable. Memories crashed into him, our nights under city lights, our whispered promises, our first kiss under the Brooklyn Bridge, the ring he had given me before he left. He remembered. He stumbled, gasping, the child safe in his arms but his soul tearing open. Liam, he choked. God, I remember. I remember everything. Tears blurred my vision, relief and anguish colliding inside me. I helped guide him and the child toward the exit, every step a battle against fire and smoke. And when we finally burst into the night air, collapsing against the pavement, Ethan pulled me into his arms, clutching me as if the world itself would vanish if he let go. I'm so sorry, he whispered, voice raw with truth. I never should have forgotten. I never should have left you. But I remember now. I remember you, my Omega, my mate, my everything. I sobbed against him, the bond blazing back to life, stronger than it had ever been. Forgiveness wasn't easy, but love made it possible. Weeks later, under the same New York lights that once witnessed our beginning and our heartbreak, Ethan slipped the ring back onto my finger. His hands trembled, but his eyes were steady, filled with the fire of a man who had been lost and had found his way home. I can't erase the pain I caused, he said softly, but I can promise you this. I will never let you doubt us again. You are mine, Liam. Not because fate says so, but because I choose you. Every day. Always. I smiled through tears, my heart whole again. And I choose you, even when it hurt, even when you forgot. I never stopped. The city roared around us, alive and merciless. But in that moment, it felt like it bowed to us, two souls stitched back together under its unyielding lights. Our story wasn't perfect. It was scarred, it was broken, but it was real. And sometimes that's all love needs to be. Forever wasn't the promise we made under New York's lights. Forever was the choice we made, again and again, even after everything tried to tear us apart. And this time I knew Ethan would never forget. This time, forever meant forever. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated with the latest videos.